The end of economic war. For decades, the ultimate weapon of global power wasn't a missile or a drone. It was a digital switch located in Washington, D.C. With one keystroke, the US Treasury could wall off entire nations from the global economy, effectively freezing their cash and starving their trade. It was called financial warfare. For a long time, there was no defense. But today, that wall is crumbling. It isn't being torn down from the outside by a rival military. It is being bypassed from the bottom up. A new decentralized web called Enbridge is being woven across the global south. This is a system built on unstoppable code that the US Treasury simply cannot reach. We are entering the era of a post-dollar world. This is a landscape where the threat of sanction no longer has teeth, and where the mBridge architecture ensures there is no central server to unplug. Today, we are going to look at how the sanction machine finally met its match in the unstoppable web. To understand where we are going, we have to understand the current architecture of power. For over 70 years, the US dollar has been the world's primary reserve currency. This gave the United States what French leaders once called an exorbitant privilege, because almost all global trade, from oil to electronics, was settled in dollars. That trade had to pass through the American banking system. This created a choke point. If a nation stepped out of line with Western interests, the U.S. could simply disconnect them from SWIFT, the global messaging system for banks. It was the financial equivalent of cutting off a city's oxygen. We saw this deployed with maximum force against Iran, Venezuela, and most recently, Russia. But every weapon creates a counterweapon. By using the dollar as a tool of war, the West sent a clear signal to the rest of the world. Your wealth is only yours as long as we allow it. The realization triggered a frantic search for an alternative, not just a different currency, but a different infrastructure. Enter Enbridge. On the surface, it looks like a technical project between central banks in China, Thailand, and UAE, and Hong Kong. But underneath, it is a geopolitical earthquake. Enbridge uses multi-CBDC technology. In plain English, it allows countries to trade directly with one another using digital versions of their own currencies, without ever needing to touch a US dollar or a US-controlled bank. This is the deactivation of the sanction machine. In the old system, a payment from Abu Dhabi to Shanghai might have to clear through a correspondent bank in New York. That gave the US government a veto over the transaction. In the Enbridge system, the transaction is peer-to-peer. It is instant. It is transparent to the participants, and most importantly, it is invisible to Washington. We are seeing the formation of a golden web. Look at the map of the global south today. You see lines of trade forming between Riyadh, Shanghai, and Moscow. These aren't just trade routes. They are encrypted tunnels. When sovereignty is written into the code of the financial system, the concept of a sanction becomes obsolete. You cannot freeze what you cannot see, and you cannot block what you do not control. Critics often argue that the dollar is too dominant to be replaced. They point to the liquidity of U.S. markets and the stability of the legal system, and they are right for now. But they are missing the point. The goal of Enbridge and the BRICS nations isn't necessarily to replace the dollar as the world's favorite currency. It is to create an exit ramp. Think of it like an insurance policy. Nations want the ability to trade even if they are targeted by secondary sanctions. This shift represents the end of economic dependency. For the first time in the modern era, nations' economic survival does not depend on the permission of the foreign power. This is the definition of true sovereignty in the 21st century. As this unstoppable web grows, the cycle of debt and dependency begins to break. We are moving toward a multipolar financial world. In this new order, power is distributed across nodes rather than concentrated in a single hub. This level of decentralization makes the global economy more resilient to political whims, but it also marks the end of an era of American unipolarity. So, where does this leave us? We are standing at the threshold of a new financial frontier. The red walls of the sanction era are dissolving into the golden web of the decentralized future. The question is no longer if the system will change. The change is already written into the ledger. The real question is who will lead the world once the era of economic warfare is finally over. The transition will be volatile. There will be attempts to regulate, to slow down, and to co-opt this technology. But you cannot uninvent the blockchain, and you cannot force nations to back into a system they no longer trust. The mBridge is built, the code is running, and the world is moving on. I'm Ro. This concludes our series on a post-dollar world. We are witnessing history in real time, not in the headlines, but in the architecture of the money itself. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Be sure to stay tuned as we continue to track the shift in global power. Please, if you like this content, show us some love by sharing, liking, and leaving your comments. The engagement shows us that you're interested, and it keeps us making more videos like this. Once again, I'm Ro, The Real Shift. All we ask for you to do is roll with us. Thank you.